Good Monday morning, and welcome to Ice Age TV, the internal combustion engine age conversation of cars, trucks, motorcycles, SUVs, lawnmowers, tractors, weed whackers, blowers. Yeah, where's the crew? I don't remember seeing the crew. I can't keep track of things. But hey, TV, welcome to my channel. If you're first time watching it, and those who watch it regularly, thank you. And wow, it's the first of the year, or the second day of the year. And geez, 2023. Wow. And Florida, which this is the longest time I've ever been in Florida in the winter months, the December months, because usually I had to go to school, so she had to be back in school. So, but she's in college now, so it's a little better schedule for kind of doing things as far as getting away and doing things. So yeah, we're still here, and it's a beautiful day. It's on, got my Crocs on, and it's if you look at the it has kind of like that muggy look to it to a degree with all the fog. If you watch my channel and saw my video, I was coming back in late last night. Not late, but I should say later, because I had to go by the store. We only rode not even a mile back in from the store to here, so it wasn't that big a deal. So yeah, so here we are, still in Florida. Here's the bikes. The bikes populated. We went from 2 bikes to 4 bikes. How'd all that happen? If you watch my channel and all about that. My goodness. So I hope everybody had a great New Year's Eve. And for me, it was kind of a nerve-wracking New Year's Eve for my brother, I should say, because my brother, if you kind of followed my video yesterday, my brother's dog ate weed, and it's gone into seizures, and so we had to spend the Saturday afternoon of taking the dog to the ER. And now my saying is I'm not a weed person, and never have been, but for the first time in my life I spent $500 on weed. And some of you are like, what do you mean you spent $500 on weed? Well, I paid my brother's medical bill to help him out, and it was like $494. So I bought my first $500 worth of weed. If any federal agents are watching my channel, they can come visit me. They think well, I don't know anymore. The weed thing is, I guess, the cannabis thing is pretty lucrative business. I don't know. I guess I'm not really following it. I'm not into that, but I guess you can go buy it, especially if you need medical marijuana. No criticism here, just sharing information. But yeah, what's the conversation today? Yeah, it was about the motorcycles. I tell you what, this Road Glide. It's incredible how I parted with my Road Glide years ago, because I just had mixed feelings on that bike. But now that I have it back, it was, well, I'll tell you what happened is that Road Glide, my 2008, dropped that thing like 3 times. It was, that was over like a year and a half's time frame, but I just dropped the bike. And one time I dropped it when I first got it, and I so struggled to not let that thing go to the ground. It was like brand new, and I dumped it in a parking lot, and I literally, because as the bike was falling over right, I was holding onto the right grip, and I was holding on to the left grip, and with all my might, I was trying not to let that bike go on the ground to scrape it all up, and I tore my right bicep muscle. My right bicep muscle's been ruined. I literally tore up my freaking left shoulder. I mean, that injury's been ongoing for now since 2018. I mean, that's hard for me to even believe. That injury has been going on that long. I mean, it's just wow. You're talking. I mean, it's definitely healed, got a lot better. But so anyway, so after that was the first time I dropped it, and then I think I lost my footing somewhere, and it dropped again, and then I was pulling the thing out of kept my bike in a car hauler, and my Jag F-Type was dripping brake fluid out of the left rear wheel. I didn't know that, so after I pulled the car out, I tried to get the bike out of the car hauler. The bike, I fell, I slipped, and I fell again. Now, when you drop these motorcycles, that's 900 pounds. So there's a creative way in how you pick these things up. Yeah, it's not easy. So anyways, so I just kind of got to the point, I was saying it's jinxed. I'm getting rid of it. So, and I just kind of felt it wasn't that stable. But now that I have one, it's just incredible. I mean, I really love that bike, and I just feel like part of it's like I think I've become a better rider. It's all about riding. If you ride a motorcycle just over and over again, and that's why, like my daughter, some people are saying, "Hey, put her on the Chief Bobber," and I'm just not there yet because number one, this seat, there's no way. There's no way she's going to ride that seat. I have to change out the seat. Not a big deal, but it's a whole different bike. And it's kind of more of the future thing than like today thing. And so for her, it's more about this. And she really loves this bike, and she's really getting in tune with this bike, and she's becoming more confident in this bike. So I just think right now, that was just an incredible deal. I've mentioned before, I really wasn't planning on buying one of these till maybe next year, per se. I was thinking about maybe buying one, but I was wanting to get my Scout to make the deal go down. So anyways, yeah, so there we are talking about the motorcycles. So yeah, blah, blah, blah. But so what's the conversation? So there's so many conversations you can have. But I thought to myself today, why don't we talk about dogs and even like drugs? I mean, so sadly, for my brother, he lives next to a major drug house. If you watch my video, I've kind of mentioned it a few times here and there. And it's a very sad story of what is next to my brother's house. It's, as we call it, the meth house. And so what we believe happened is my brother's dog ate some drugs. My brother thinks it's more than weed. He thinks it's, who knows? So for me, I guess I think to myself, wow, dogs. What's the impact of dogs in our life? And I think to myself, got to get my pretty cool flag thing here. I've been a dog person my whole life. I mean, I just love dogs, and I've always had dogs, even though dogs are a lot of work. Dogs are a lot of money. And anyway, I don't know where to put my coffee here without spilling all over my computer, right? So I just thought to myself, hey, you know what? Just kind of one theme of the conversation would be dogs, just because I think so many people are animal people. And here's the thing. My brother lives in a neighborhood that most of the neighborhood knows each other because they've all lived there for so long. And so the word's getting out that the person that lives next door to my brother's house is not a good person. And if anything ever happens to my brother's dog in a radical way, I think it already has, but we're ongoing and try to get him to his vet today. But just a compassion for the dogs. And for me, the reason I'm talking about this, and even the reason I made that video yesterday, it's weird, that video that I posted yesterday was backwards. It was kind of different. I was like, is this the beginning of the year? Everything's going to be backwards? Yeah. So, but I even had reservations of using a video to talk about my brother's dog's, sorrows of what's going on. But then I thought, it's an awareness factor for anybody that has a dog right now, more than ever. If you're walking your dog around in a park, in the general public, you should really be aware today that this possibly your dog. I mean, I know this is nothing new. It's just for me, just talking out loud, because I never really thought much about it. But for my brother, if you're walking your dog in general public, there could be something on the ground. We all know that they could, harm your dog, any animal. But for my brother, the speculation is that the next door neighbor, they have different people come over to the house. So, there's infinite variables of who goes to that house to get, high and stoned off their butt. And the list goes on and on and on. And so my brother's thought is that on Christmas Day, a woman's body was brought out of that house. The odds are an OD'd person. Well, the police came back this past Thursday. So my brother is speculating that at the last second, because they were doing basically, I guess, a crime scene investigation of the residence. So my brother's dog's name is Bo, and I got my brother that dog in December of 2019, and as his Christmas present, his puppy. And so the dog's like 3 years old. So my brother is thinking that when whoever was in the house that time and they got the heads up, the police showed up, he feels very strongly somebody threw drugs over their fence into my brother's yard. So that's what we think played out. So, and once again, I'm just sharing this video more this morning just to hopefully anybody that has an animal or dog, that more so in today's society, I mean, it's just sad beyond sad, the drug-related challenges this country's in. I mean, it's beyond believable. Even I was reading the other day about how young toddlers are dying from drugs because their parents mistakenly leave their drugs out, and the child gets hold of them and ingests them, and they're dead, and it's a huge problem. And I've mentioned before, over 121,000 people have died from fentanyl so far in 2020. Was it 2022? I think. Yeah, I don't think the statistic was even for the full year. So it could be 150,000 dead people from fentanyl in this country in this past year. Wow. So once again, I'm just voicing the concerns. So as far as my brother's dog, it's we don't know. I mean, for me, yesterday, as far as I know, my brothers had texted me, was the first day he didn't have any seizures. And if anybody has a dog, has ever witnessed a dog have a seizure, it's really bad. I mean, what they do, when it's radical, they literally lay on their side and they start running like a wild animal as they're foaming out of their mouth. It's just, it's just very sad to watch. And it can be an experience that goes on for 1, 2, 3 minutes. And it can be permanent, brain damage. There's so many things that go on with that. And it's all because of, somebody else did they intentionally, do that to harm my brother? I don't believe that. What I think is they didn't think it through. They were under a panic mode, and somebody's probably at that house. I don't think it was a regular guy that lives there did it. Could have been. I mean, there's so many variables. It could have been my brother was walking the dog. He walks his dog up and down that neighborhood over a park all the time. Could have been there. There's a lot of variables on how this played out. But sadly, the drug or the blood test, urine test, showed that the dog has weed in him. And the consequences for an animal getting drugs in their system is not a good thing. It's usually not a good ending story. So anyway, so I thought I'd bring up the dog thing just because I think it's just an awareness to where we live in society, even to the point that people, there's probably many dog stories as well, drug related, of people that do drugs in their own home and their dogs have gotten into their drugs. I'm sure there's many stories of that as well. And even like the emergency vet, they don't know who my brother is, but you can kind of tell. They're kind of like, You can kind of tell they were like, yeah, well, your brother does weed, and he left some weed out, and the dog got into it. I mean, you could even sense that type of opinion there from the people that work there. I mean, to me, it's like, yeah. I mean, they don't know. They don't know who my brother is. They don't know where he lives. They don't know the whole story. But I know one thing. When I called the police yesterday to do the ER recommended we do a drug report, and so I called it in for my brother's. My brother's 85% deaf. He can't hear for the most part. So I called it in, and sure enough, the dispatch person knew exactly what number the house was next to my brother's house. He knew that's the meth house. He already knows. It's because they've had so many things go on at that house for so long. But so anyway, yeah, dogs. The compassion for us for the dogs, and I mean, think about it. I mean, I think sadly, dogs live better off here than they do in third world countries. I mean, sadly, dogs live better off than the inner cities of our country. I mean, the dogs are such a key. I mean, dogs are just so part of our life and what they do. And as we know, you have the canine unit for the police that use them for sniffing out bombs, I believe, even the drugs. I mean, it's incredible what these dogs can do for us. And also there's the bad as well. Sadly, here people get pit bulls, and the pit bull, mauls the owner. So yeah, dogs have their good and their bad, but for the most part, I think dogs far outweigh the good and our happiness in life. And so I was reading actually a thing about how the wolves are now being tracked. They've literally put GPS collars on wolves up like in the Minnesota, I guess Illinois area, and they're now tracking wolves to see how they roam. And it's pretty incredible. It's a great article. And it's really opening the eyes to how wolves don't necessarily always run in packs and how they break away from packs, and how wolves will travel thousands of miles. They now have GPS monitoring of a wolf, and it'll go a few thousand miles on its journeys. And they notice on how they'll break away from packs, and they don't think they can have the dominance of the pack to be able to be the number one eater of the pack. Really great information. It's ongoing. and pretty cool. And they actually set up cameras where they know where the wolves kind of travel on a regular basis, so you can see these pictures and small little video clips of how these wolves, interact with each other and play with each other like regular old dogs do, and then they're also trying to figure out how they eat their prey, because the wolves apparently are very hard to track without this GPS, and it's hard to also really tell what prey they're eating as well. So and then like the beaver, a beaver, they go after beavers. So for these beavers that build these dams up in certain areas of the country, the wolves are kind of like controlling that to a degree of the dams, the beaver dams being built because the wolves are eating up the beavers, and then the beavers have terrible eyesight of distance, but they have incredible smell. Well, the wolves are so smart; they will sit downwind from them so that they can't smell them as they're sitting there waiting them to attack them. So it's pretty cool, pretty good information. And yeah, as a wolf, it's a dog, but yeah, I mean, it's the stature and the body of one, but it's not what we as individuals are going to own. Even I'm sure some do. I'm sure out there in Alaska and other parts of the country have wolves, if you know what I mean. How you break them from that pack mentality and track and kill, I have no idea on that. Even though I've had some, my dad had a Malamute, and boy, that dog was all about. Yeah, my dad. This is a classic story. I'm not lying to you. So for my family, I was more the dog guy, and that was challenging for other members of the family because we're all growing up. But I was always very, the dog person. My dad always traveled, always gone. But for some reason, he wanted this Alaskan Malamute, Chautauqua, beautiful dog. And this is when he lived in New Jersey. And I mean, this is no. I mean, I'm not embellishing here. This is classic. So as that dog gets older, that dog would run. So my dad literally built I'm going to say that was probably close to the height of that china cabinet right there. Close. So he built, when we land in New Jersey, and we actually had part of the yard fence, but that dog just got out. So my dad built really a caged area, probably like, I would say maybe a 12 by 12 pen. I'm just guessing. And that damn dog, and my dad put the doghouse in it too to keep him, contained. That dog just jumped on the top of the doghouse and jumped out of the gated, his gated room, if you want to call it that, whatever. So this was classic. Is my dad gets a phone call from a local farmer that's like probably a good 3 miles away through the woods, probably 3 miles away, driving probably 5. And the farmer's furious. And I don't know how he got my dad's phone number. So, anyways, my dad, and I was at school or something. I don't know what was going on. I wasn't around, but I just heard the story from my dad. So, my dad got a phone call from his farmer. He said, "You need to come down right here and get your dog. We have a serious problem." So my dad drives down to the farm, and that Malamute has killed some of his animals. Yes, yeah. So my dad had to write this guy a check because his dog had killed some farm animals. Yeah, I mean, incredible. I mean, so some chickens, and some. I don't think he killed real big animals, but whatever. I mean, so that was my dad. Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, the stories with my in my family with the animals. We kind of get a little lengthy here, so I'm gonna kind of not try to stay focused on all that. As far as the real message here on the dogs this morning was more just an awareness for anybody that has a dog that in today's society more than ever, with all the fentanyl going around. Can you imagine if somebody drops some fentanyl and you're walking your dog somewhere, that dog got that packet, it's over. I would assume that dogs, not only you could die, the dog's dead. So just really sad. But here's another thing I read this morning too, and I've talked about it before, is, well, I kind of start off the dog conversation. I'll go to I try to kind of keep it the car theme. I have not had any. It's kind of calmed down. It's cooled down. Here's the business. Since it's Monday, it's a holiday for the banks and the markets. Nothing's going on. It's all about engineering, building things. pretty cool to watch this stuff. I like watching this stuff. And that's so neat to see how things were built, and just even back in the day, the technology they had to do all this. Anyways, tell you what. So the EV industry, the EV market, I mean, it's water under the bridge. This country, I mean, they have the Inflation Act bill that they have allocated billions of dollars of incentives to help manufacturers further get the agenda further down the road for electric vehicles, and part of that is subsidizing factories to be built. And right now, it's just huge, some billions and billions of dollars being put in this country to build battery factories and to build electric car manufacturing factories. It's huge. It's massive. What's interesting is instead of staying in the Detroit, Michigan area, it's going to the Tennessee, the South Carolina, Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia. So it's going to the southern states. Electric technology is being more focused on in the southern part of our country than in the northern part. Sometimes I wonder, well, yeah, because electric vehicles don't do that great in the winter months. I mean, the electric vehicle I have, a truck, and the gentleman that works for me, Joe, he'll tell you straight up that 278 mile, 300 mile range in extremely cold weather goes to 178 miles. Yeah. I mean, I'm not lying to you. That's a fact. We had the really cold weather up north. He told me. It's like the truck won't get any past 178-mile charge. So that's huge. In the cold weather, it's not realistic, really, at the end of the day. But so I think, so yeah, they're probably building all the electric battery manufacturing down south. They need the warmer climates for the batteries. So the point is, the electric agenda is massive. It's happening. I mean, it's full throttle. It's not going to, it's worldwide. It's going to be a $586 billion investment. In this country here, it's going to be hundreds of billions of dollars investment of retooling factories and building factories. So the electric vehicle agenda is here. It's all, it's going to happen. I mean, just be unbelievable, really, even for me, because I think, man, they're just all taking assumptions that everybody and brothers in electric vehicles and how the electrical grid and everything else sustains all this. People plugging their cars, and there's so many variables. I mean, it's gonna take time for this all to play out, but yeah, right. But then I read about General Motors, and this is kind of surprising in here for me on my channel. I'm not going to take sides. I'm not here promoting good or hate. I'm not, what I mean by that is I'm not trying to promote or side anybody to get revved up on my channel to do devious things or mean things to others. I just try to share information, and I'm going to lead up to I'm talking about that. But before I bring that up, General Motors apparently contributed like $86 million last year up in the Michigan area and other schools for transgender teachings. So maybe that's a General Motors, fan, and it's interesting. Years ago, I kind of got away from General Motors. I just kind of felt like I just didn't have that same feeling that I did when I was younger, growing up. I just kind of felt like General Motors kind of going a little different direction. And once again, here I'm not here by any means wanting to be critical of anybody here watching my YouTube channel. I'm just sharing information. What I'm sharing with you is General Motors is now a transgender policy big time donator. So just keep that in mind that if you're a person that is in that, frame of mind, then I think that you're going to be very advantageous to buy a General Motors vehicle. If you're not of that, mindset that teaching kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth elementary school people the transgender ideology, then I think you just need to step back for a second and think about, do you want your money contributing to that movement that's going on in our country here? So that was kind of an eye-opener for me. I was like, wow, GM's doing that? Huh, interesting. Even though I kind of always had a feeling they kind of gone that way. When I had the reveal of the C8 Corvette, if anybody saw that, that was the first eye-opener to me that kind of what's worth kind of going and their views and all. But that's, that's what it is. That's what it is, okay? So and then, the reason I was kind of saying to my channel here that I have no desire to fuel hate or racism or divisions. That isn't who I am. Nothing to do with that. I just love sharing my stories and my passion for cars. And some people are saying, well, how many cars do you have now? After I said that I had 30 sales or 30 purchases, And I was counting in my head. I think I have 17 vehicles. But if you include the motorcycles, I think I'm at 29. If you include the motorcycles. I think right now, so I'm still down from my prime during the 2021. I had more vehicles than I do now. But I had last year was the most purchases. But even when I watched my own video, I swear I did 30 purchases, but even for me, it's like I counted 29. So I don't know. I haven't taken the time with all the things going on around me with my brother's dog and having to help him and be supportive of the challenge of him seeing a dog. I mean, he has a dog and loses a dog. You just know how painful that is. Who the heck gets up one morning and wants to make a decision to put your dog down? I tell people all the time, who hasn't, if you're a dog person, you've had to make that decision. It's the worst day of your life. I hate it. Have I had to do it? Yes, it's the worst. But anyways, so what I was leading up to here's something that I just read this morning that, and I've talked about it before, the Donald Trump rally, the stolen election rally on January 6th, everybody knows. So this is what's interesting is there's 900 people now that have been rounded up, and the Department of Justice, this is the, not the Department, it's not the Department of Justice, it's actually, I think, maybe it's Department of Justice, but anyways, it's the biggest investigation ever in this country of going after people that participated in the January 6th breach of the Capitol. Wow. So Donald Trump is going to go down as the former sitting president that, because he wasn't, per se, he hadn't relinquished his duties on January 6th. Wasn't it like January 21st? What was the day that actually Joe Biden took over presidency? I'm just going off memory. So Donald Trump is probably going to go down as the only sitting president that had over 900 participants breach the Capitol of the United States. Wow. So it's the biggest department, it's the biggest investigation ever. And what they're talking about in this article is on how the social platforms and the people that bragged about their day at the January 6th rally self-incriminate themselves. They're still finding people from over now 2 years ago, and the way they're tracking these people down is because of their social media interactions and conversations, and people bragging about them being there. So wow, and so far, 450 have actually been charged, and 450 have pleaded guilty, and 180 have actually gone to jail. Some very minimal, time, 30 days. Some 3 years, 5 years. Smaller, very small percentage of great time frames. Because some people didn't understand how to handle their cases and pleaded not guilty, only for for them to be, shown that they dig up all this evidence of what they did that they denied, and so then they're charged because of they're just lying and la la la. So one guy named Dustin Thomas out of Michigan, like a 34-year-old guy, just got 3 years of prison time because he should have just said I plead guilty, but he didn't, and that made it worse for him. And so I just think to myself, wow, incredible. For Donald Trump will be an individual as a president that got a lot of people pretty riled up. And I've talked about it before that, wow, but you don't hear much about it. But people's lives have been ruined. I mean, there's many stories of people that were executives of companies that have been terminated from their positions and because of their, misdemeanor charge. And then a lot of people say that they just really wanted to get on with their life, and they just went ahead and pleaded guilty, and but they're having to rebuild their life because now they have like a borderline criminal record on hand. So wow, but all those people got riled up in that moment. Just wow, isn't that incredible? To me, even for me, I witnessed that. I watched it. You saw these people, charging the Capitol. I mean, it was a moment that nobody will forget, and it's a moment for a lot of people that are now paying dearly for the sacrifice of themselves for an individual, and so that's like, yeah, right. So anyways, just thought this morning I'd just throw out some dog conversations because of the challenges that we have right now with my brother's dog, And hopefully today we can get him to his veterinarian and get an answer. But here's what I was saying earlier was in his neighborhood, so many people know my brother and they all have dogs in the neighborhood, and a lot of people are really not happy about the situation, very concerned because now they know. I'll tell you, these watches might drive you nuts. Your watch sends you notifications. You can't get the notification off. That's what's going on right now. Had to clear my watch of a notification. It's like, yeah, watch. But so for my brother, it's such a tight knit community there where he lives and neighbors, and so there's a lot of people in the neighborhood that are very upset, and it's just incredible. I guess what I could say is so many aspects of how the drug related issues that are going on in our country, and how's that being handled? I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's being handled very well, or does it? Can anybody really testify that they know of people that are doing drugs over and over again, how they resolve those problems? And that's what they're saying, is that for the social media platforms and these, your social media interactions, it's cults. They're saying it's a huge problem now that people get caught up in these forums and they just all chat the same language, which just revs up the hate and the devious things. And they're saying it's a huge problem more than ever in today's society that people are just becoming cults in so many different ways, with the sex and drugs and politics, and the list goes on and on and on. And they're just saying that it's a very challenging thing to draw people out of those type of environments, which the CCP is loving all this stuff. Anybody's been figuring this stuff out? The CCP, the China Communist Party, is so behind the scenes of all these social platforms. Whatever you may say, it makes sense. We'll have this bot or whatever try to make you look like an idiot so that you step down and what you believe. And that's what's going on more than ever. I talk about it. Your beliefs, if you voice them today more than ever, very good chance you're going to be squashed of what just makes common sense, right? So it's a holiday for a lot of people. They're federal and other things, and wow. So what's 2023, right? What is 2023? I have no idea. So I write down a list of things. Yeah. How do I unwind all the things I did to myself in 2022? Yeah, for all the monies that I've spent. Yikes. Yeah, 2023. Can't see the 2023 being what 2022 was for me. So it'll be a different year and different things that lie ahead. And hopefully for all of us, we have a good year and a better year. I mean, I'm sure some had a great year last year, and some other people are like, man, it's time to move on for 2022. We've all had those years. Like, man, I just want to get out of this year and move on. It's been a lousy year, and I want a better year. So anyways, hey, everybody, thanks for watching my YouTube channel. Appreciate all the nice comments. And hopefully today's conversation about the awareness of dogs and drugs is, more so than I would have really thought about. And, so hopefully that just helps you protect your animal and think more about that. And when does the drug awareness in our communities start to hit home more? What's going on? I mean, it's just like, what is going on with all the drugs going on, and where is the conversations of people are ruining their lives and ruining other people's lives, and where's the conversation? Yet, you're just going to probably hear the hate of this political conversation or hate of that political conversation and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the drug related issues are growing. They're not getting smaller. What are we going to do? What's the answer? I mean, sincerely, how do you handle that, right? All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. God bless. Stay safe.